Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to The Right Time, a Wave Sports and Entertainment original presented by Prize Picks. My name is Bomani Jones. Thanks for listening wherever you get your podcast. Thanks for watching us on YouTube. Subscribe, like, rate us, review us, give us 5 stars. You only give us 4 stars. I'm inclined to believe you are a hater. It is that time of week where we have a guest join us. And it's a very interesting thing for me and Shaw because we've been trying to get our next guest on for literally 2 months. She just been so damn busy she couldn't come kick it with us. And by the legitimate greatest coincidence ever, here she is
Woo!
today.
Look at that.
Check her out on ESPN. Check her out on MSG. Monica McNutt, what's going on?
Man, Bo, I'm glad. First of all, I'm glad we could finally make this happen because that is not hyperbolic. We legit have been trying to do this for 2 months, and I'm gonna take this earring out so it doesn't knock against my headphones. Second, I gotta say, as the week has unfolded, and this is props to you, I was like, oh, where's Bo? Like he makes sense. Like he can listen in this conversation. Like to give me somebody that's just gonna listen and probably make me smarter. Because that's one of the reasons I don't be coming on here. You're so smart, it's a little intimidating.
Oh, don't. See, no, that's because you don't give yourself nearly enough credit. I saw Monica in Las Vegas during the Super Bowl, and I was sitting next to her, and she was talking about just kind of the pressures of being where she is, and she's talking about people feeling like you're supposed to be farther than you are right now, and I'm like, where are you supposed to be? The Senate, the moon? I don't know where you supposed to be that you ain't right now.
Bro, and I so appreciate that conversation because I think you do realize really quickly in this industry, like you can always keep ascending if that's what you want, but like, are you doing work that you're proud of? Like, and how are you sleeping at
Yeah.
night?
Well, the other part of it too is, I know how old you are, and I know where I was when I was your age. I'm like, oh no, no, I wasn't there. Like I was
Yeah.
not in these places. Like you pull some stuff off that I don't think that people quite understand. Literally 5, 10 years ago, it's kind of a similar thing with Mina. It literally wasn't possible at this
Mm-hmm.
place, right? And you doing it in a way where it's not even really being treated as a novelty of anything. You're just doing this and you're good at it, and so it makes me very happy to see you in these places because I got wind. I think it was when the Washington Post had done that profile on you, and my guy Aaron Solomon from Around the Horn, I saw the quotes that he was giving about you in there, and I was like, oh, I know the only other person I've heard him talk about like that. He does not do this very often. I was like, let me check this out. I was like, oh yeah, we gonna start booking her. She next.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Bo. I truly do. And there have been many folks that have championed me, supported me, and I'm thankful for that. And as we see this week, like you bring me to do a job, I'm gonna do my job, and let the chips
Yeah.
fall where they may.
No, and so we got a lot here to talk about. We got the NBA Finals coming up. We got some WNBA things. We got little chuckly things that I saw right before we get on. I just want to tell people before we get on, and I didn't get to send you this picture yet, but I wish you could see this picture I saw apparently 3 days ago on Instagram, because Instagram would like to tell you what happened 3 days ago. Is Busta Rhymes on the beach in Curacao in a red t-shirt, some jeans, and some sneakers, looking at the water and how beautiful it is. And I'm just like, these New York cats, and I know you're not a New Yorker, but like you've been here long enough to appreciate this just who they are.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm like, whatever makes you feel most comfortable, right? The outside arena, the environment doesn't necessarily matter, but whatever makes you feel most comfortable.
They are always, I mean, New York cats are just always ready for a fight to break out. Like that's just, I feel like no matter where they are, like when I used to live in Miami, you just see them and you just be like, dog, why you didn't have nothing else that you could pack? You know what I'm saying? Like this is what you got to wear
Look,
out here in these streets.
again, on the timing today, the New Yorkers that was ready to fight on my behalf, I appreciate them.
Yes, that's right. That's what you need. That's what you need, right?
I
Now, this
appreciate
is
them.
another NBA story I
Oh,
told people
wow.
about. So, Jonte Porter, you may remember him, being the dude that was tell Coach, my stomach hurt because he was making prop bets on himself, and apparently he had got deep into debt from some dude named Long Fee Pham, aka Bruce, and Bruce. Heck, yes, Bruce said. Obviously, you didn't go to graduate school. You meet a lot of Bruces and Harrys and Harveys that don't look like no Harvey that you ever met before when you go to graduate school, especially in
That's
California. You'd be
hysterical.
surprised. But
Okay.
Bruce apparently is one of the people that Jonte Porter owed money to, and Bruce did an interview with the FBI about the case, and then Bruce tried to catch a one-way ticket to Australia, and the feds got him before he could do that. And they arrested him on Monday. And I'm just curious your thoughts, because my thought on this was, Partner, you needed when they arrested Jonte Porter was when you needed to go to Australia. You was really out here just hanging out, thinking that are you kidding me? Because let me tell you who looked like he ready to sing. This light-skinned dude that I'm looking at in this picture, he ain't ready for no hard time.
Here you go. Yes, Bruce, you're a little too late on your exit strategy. But I will say, Bo, and I don't want to revisit this whole story, but this gambling and the way that it's infusing sports is, we're gonna have to keep an eye on this. And I did find it interesting, and I know the league needed to send a message. And obviously, Jonte Porter is a roster spot 9, 10, probably 10, 11, 12, right? But it's funny to me that we can both advertise for gambling and in the same commercials offer our 1-800 helplines and if you're struggling with gambling. Like, if this thing has the potential to be an addiction, do you just punish as opposed to trying to heal? That was my only thing with Porter being banned from the league.
Yeah, I think there may have been room for both, right? Because I don't think you just can't have him. You can't have him out here anymore, right? Nobody can trust that he's going to be on the up and up. But the thing that I have said at every turn, this applies really to all of us. None of us can really say we're exempt. Everybody's got their technicalities around it. But the bottom line is we out here selling something with a warning label. Hey, anytime you got to sell something that comes with warning and a phone number, not just a warning, but a phone number for you to call if you like this shit too much.
Listen, here we go. And here we go. In the NIL space, the collegiate space, like, this is going to be, I don't know if fascinating is the right word. I'd have to say fascinating and also potentially dangerous, as we've already seen in probably at least 3 cases now. I don't know, Bo.
We're going to see. Now, I want to talk to you first about the NBA Finals. They have come around. I am really intrigued by this series. I think that Dallas is ultimately going to wind up winning it just because I think I'll take their top 2 over the other team's top 2. But the other team's top 2 are so fascinating in this one. And I'm curious, do you think we too mean to them? Because they've truthfully done a lot. They just haven't won a championship. And it's almost like we'd give them more credit if they hadn't won so much.
So this week, I think, is the first time where I know Greeny has done this a bunch on Get Up while we've had this time between finals. Really look at what has or has not been accomplished. Like in the case of Jayson Tatum, right? 3-time All-NBA. He's been to 5 conference finals. He's going now to his second finals. He's 26, and while there are under 27, and while there are guys like Kobe and Tony Parker, like guys that achieved success at a high level prior to turning 27, they also had big-time wingmen. Like Kobe had Shaq, right? Just to use that example. And Jayson Tatum in particular has been appointed the focal point of the Boston Celtics so early, and they have tweaked the roster around him how many times, right? And so I do think that we have been lulled to sleep in terms of how good this team was, especially when folks just toss out, oh, well, the West was so much tougher. That is true, but I'm not going to say that the East was playing high school basketball either. And if you would say that of the path for the Celtics to get to the finals just by virtue of the injuries, they earned the number 1 overall seed. Like, if anybody should have an easy path, they earned it.
I just feel like with the Celtics, if I was their coach, I feel like I'd spend a whole lot of time going like this. Hey, pay attention when I'm talking to you. They don't seem like these be places.
You don't feel like Missoula does that? I feel like I see Missoula with the claps a lot.
I can see that. I'm going to be honest with you. I don't know how hard he'd have to clap for me to care. I don't know how much clapping he'd have to do for me to listen to him. He just don't look like somebody I feel like listening to.
As I understand it, he's got great relationships with that group. He's got a sharp basketball mind. There obviously is a credibility and I think one of the last times I might have been with you, we actually talked about Ime Udoka. There's definitely a credibility and a swag that he had that Joe Mazzulla didn't. But this team's been on this journey together, right? And I will say this, if they don't get it done this year, then good Lord. Because I'm still going with them in 7. But if they don't get it done this year, Bo, oof.
Yeah, see, I think my thing with the Celtics is, and I admit this, and I don't know if you're like this with players. I readily admit that I'm like this. I don't like the way they play basketball. Like, I don't know how effective they have to be for me to, like, I didn't love the way the Warriors played basketball, but they were so good that it really didn't matter, right? But I also felt like the Warriors, as much as I didn't like just watching dudes shoot a bunch of threes, they were getting good shots. I feel like the Celtics aren't looking for good shots. They're just looking for threes. And you're going to have a hard time getting me to a place where I'm able to believe that that's a successful formula for winning deep into the postseason. I say this as though they're not already in the NBA Finals, so I can't act like they haven't gotten deep into postseason by doing it. But even with Tatum, and that's how I feel about all these Kobe system guys. Y'all just be trying to take hard shots, and I just don't understand why you make your lives so difficult. So they got a dude that last year we didn't think could dribble with his left hand. They got a dude where Tatum, where I don't feel like I don't like the shots he gets. And I'm also struck, I was talking to somebody about this earlier today. You would think that he could go buy more people, right? Like he just doesn't, like his game is not an explosive game in the way that I watch it. And then I look on the other side and they got two unstoppable boys over there. They ain't gonna stop themselves either. Like, so it's fascinating to me what the Celtics are gonna be. And it is, right or wrong, we've decided Jaylen Brown ain't that dude. We've decided he's a very good player, but we've decided he ain't that dude. It's all a referendum on Tatum, it feels like.
I agree with that. Now, this is the thing that I think I caution us about as we go into this. Luka and Kyrie have been fantastic. I take nothing away from that. But I do think that the Celtics, in terms of their personnel, can put more pressure on Luka, not only defensively, but while Luka has made progress as a defender this year, I don't think anybody's calling him a flat-out defender, right? So I think that there was a frazzled outcome on behalf of the Timberwolves, both defensively and offensively, that I think did not put pressure on Luka and Kyrie defensively in the way that I think the Celtics will have the opportunity to, right? But my thing in this series is if Luka and Kyrie are the best two players on the floor, particularly late in game, that's the series right there for me, right? As much as Kristaps Porzingis is an X factor, to me, the guy we're not talking about when it comes to the Celtics is Jrue Holiday. 17-9 when he won with the Milwaukee Bucks. He probably will spend a quality amount of time guarding Luka or at least making his life difficult. He's got a command for the floor. He can be versatile. He can shoot threes. Like, I think Holiday, and there's a reason you go out and get him, having been a team that was in 4 conference finals at that point and have been to a finals already. There's a reason you go out and get a guy that has done it.
And he's the grown up in the room. Because what they've always seemed to be lacking is somebody who comported himself like a grown up. Poor Marcus Smart. Because our whole thing was you're getting rid of your whole heartbeat. Can you get rid of your heartbeat and still be good? And they was like, man, we don't need no heartbeat. Heartbeat down there losing 60 games. However bad Memphis was. They just basically said everything, all that intangible stuff that he gave and everything else. They're like, nah, actually, we don't think that matters.
They're like, we're going to roll out here like the 10-man. Watch us work. We won't need no heart.
They rolled him out.
But you know what?
They sent him.
Obviously, going up to Boston with the Knicks, and I think I had a national game there with us for them. The sentiment in Boston was kind of like his voice was now falling on deaf ears, and obviously actions speak louder than words in terms of the trade actually going down. But you do outgrow situations. You do miss your window, and things needed to be shaken up.
Yeah, and I think at the top of their roster, the question is just about what kind of best player on your team is Tatum, because clearly he can get you to the NBA Finals, right? Like if you were to compare him and Luka, you don't really feel like there's anything that Luka can do that Tatum can't do. I would say that Tatum is a better defensive player. Luka's a big dude, but Jayson Tatum's a 6'10" 2 guard, right? Like these are all incredible things. And I don't think any of us is taking Jayson Tatum over him. Any of us.
I'm with you. I think now you got me thinking. What does Luka do that Jayson Tatum doesn't? I don't know. I think that. Well, go ahead.
He squares up and says, "I'm getting 40 tonight, boys." That's the one thing he does.
I was literally going there. Like for the closeout game 6 in Minnesota, the rumor was Luka wanted to watch Real Madrid in this finals a soccer match on Saturday. And he came out like, oh yeah, I'm going to be watching my game. Like I'm not playing. Luka does a better job of putting his thumb on a ball game more consistently. Now we could debate whether or not he does that out of necessity in terms of his supporting cast, where the Celtics have very clearly worked to build the team required to get it done.
Yeah, like that's the thing about Luka. It matters a lot in the playoffs, right? Because I think like Luka's a guy that puts up big volume stats, and you look at a lot of the advanced stats, they're really good because he has the ball so much. And it's why I've always been a little bit skeptical of him, is because he's just like, yeah, if you're going to have the ball that much, these numbers are going to look that way. Except when it gets to this time of year, when you're supposed to have the ball that much, if you're the guy that he says he is, boom, watch what happens. And it keeps happening. Like, this is what James Harden couldn't do. James Harden, like, the difference between Luka Doncic and James Harden is James Harden never got to the NBA Finals. That's the difference. And why is there the difference? Because you ain't going to have that game where Luka just completely falls apart because he just goes totally within himself and just tightens up. Did you see that team, what they got the silver medal the last time at the Olympics, which was basically Luka and the Slavs? Let's go.
Yes. He's two things. I'm old enough to remember part of the conversation was about conditioning. I think that's an underrated area that he's grown in this last season. And of course, having Kyrie, maybe not just this last season in particular, because last year, I think we forget, they were tanking. Like, they didn't even go to the playoffs last year. He's grown in terms of his conditioning. He's always had an incredible feel for the game. Quietly, I was looking up some stats the other day. In terms of total rebounds, he's one of the top guys. Well, it's only 2 teams left, but he's been one of the top guys as far as total rebounds in the whole postseason. And so I think there are so many aspects of his game. I shouldn't say so many, but there are aspects of his game that still go under the radar because we're just mystified by the degree of difficulty on his shots and when he hits them.
Well, let me ask you this about Dallas, because they made the trades at the trade deadline, right? Like, they got P.J. Washington, they got the Gafford dude that I admit I never heard of until I want to say
Shout out to the Wizards.
Oklahoma
That's where he
City
came from.
series. Yes, he did. I mean, and when they told me he played for the Wizards, I was like, oh, okay, that's why I've never heard of him. There's about 5 teams, man. You like, if you play for the Utah Jazz right now, you might as well be playing for the Shanghai Sharks. I have no idea what you over there. I mean, I know some of the dudes that's over there. I think Walker Kessler plays for them.
Yeah, he's still there. There you go. Good job, Bo. Ding, ding, ding. Who else you got? The long hair. He used to be in Boston. You know this guy.
Long hair used to be in Boston. No, Gordon Hayward. That was before.
Come on, you know him.
Which one?
Gender neutral name. First name.
The Time Lord. Not the Time Lord.
Yeah. No, not Time Lord. Kelly Olynyk. I think he's still.
Kelly Olynyk. He's still in the league.
I think he's still in Utah because we went out there and they actually have, and I'm blanking on this kid's name. It's not Keegan Murray because he's in Sacramento. But young kid that's going to be their point guard. I can't call his name off the top of my head. He got.
See, it's not your fault. It's not your. It just never dawned on me that Kelly Olynyk was still in the NBA. It never. I could like wow. Think about how long it was. I want to call it 9 years ago that he popped Kevin Love's arm out of socket.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah.
Wow, that was white on white crime.
Still kicking it.
Still getting them checks. Still getting the checks. But I'm curious about this. The big change that Dallas made as their defense got a lot better. And it's interesting because they don't really have players that we think of as being individually good defenders. Like, do you know what they did when they made those trades that made things different?
So I think P.J. Washington and Daniel Gafford are good defenders, right? And they are the guys that joined. But like you said, Charlotte and D.C. respectively. And literally, I'm only familiar with Daniel Gafford at this level because the Wizards are my home team, right? And it had long been free Gaff, right? Like that was the energy in Washington because you could see his talent and there was nothing around him. I also think Derrick Jones Jr. doesn't necessarily get the credit he deserves as a defender. But I think schematically, they've just committed. Like so much of defense, I had a coach that used to say this all the time. Defense and rebounding is about effort. And 2 years ago, I know the conversation was around helping Luka, and Jason Kidd was asking, you got to hold for 2 seconds, hold your guy for 2 seconds, and then the help is going to be in position. That was kind of what they were asking Luka to do in terms of the bare minimum. I think, and I mean this from the bottom of my heart, that the turn for Kyrie Irving in terms of getting back to basketball as the primary thing and the leadership and the accountability that he's helped bring to that locker room is a big piece of why they've been able to turn the corner defensively. Because if we think back, Kyrie, when he wants to, he also is a terrific defender. And I'm looking for this text because I texted Steve Novak the other day. We were talking about the 2011 Dallas squad versus this Dallas squad. And he pointed out specifically when it comes to defense that you got to give credit to Sean Sweeney, who is one of their assistant coaches, who has really schemed and game planned and kind of led the defensive effort for them this year.
Look at that Steve Novak drop. We got Steve Novak and Kelly Olynyk. We dropping all these white dudes I forgot had played NBA basketball.
No, because Bo, the question was, and I don't think it made air, but the question was, is the 2011 run for the Mavs more impressive than this run? So I texted Novi and Brandon Haywood because I was like, y'all, what you think? And I very much remember how great Dirk was in the course of that run. But this Mavs squad had, 25-1 odds to get here? I think you got to go with this squad.
This is the thing about it. That 11 squad in those last 3 rounds ran through Kobe, Durant, Westbrook, James Harden, LeBron James, Dwayne Wade, and Chris Bosh. It was just, and they ended those Lakers, right? They swept them out of there. Andrew Bynum knocked Berea out of the air. They fell apart. They fired Phil Jackson after that. They destroyed a dynasty with that one. Oklahoma City was young, but them dudes was still there, and they got to the conference finals, and they watched them. And then, honestly, for me, the most shocking finals outcome ever was them beating Miami. I just couldn't. I to this day, I could not believe that Miami blew that. And I have all these arguments about those Mavericks weren't really that good, except apparently they were. Apparently they were very, very good. And Dirk was just like, all right, boys, I didn't know he could do it. And he was just like, how about y'all jump on my back
Dirk was
and watch me work?
Yeah. Look, I get that. And so it's funny because, and shout out to my guys, Brendan feels like you feel. Novi was kind of like, we had a core that had been in place, and this Dallas group just came together. But when but my big thing is always first year of as superstars never works. And that was the first year of Miami. So it worked in Toronto. That's the only time we've seen it work.
Right. I will also say, very nice of you to ask Steve Novak his opinion about those 2011 Mavericks. I didn't know that he even had anything to do with them until right now.
Listen, I literally was like, who was on this roster? Oh, I know them. That's right. Let me hit
them. He was so touched when you called and asked his opinion. He was like, but do you have any other questions? I would love to tell you more. Anything you need.
No, he's not. Oh, man. That's hysterical, though.
All right, we're going to do a little advertising right fast. We're going to come back and talk some more with Monica McNutt. Playoff basketball season is heating up with the NBA Finals, and Prize Picks is the most simple way to get in on the action. You just select 2 or more players, pick more or less on their projected stats, and submit your lineup. Quick withdrawals, easy gameplay, and an enormous selection of players and stat types are what make Prize Picks the #1 fantasy sports app. But rather than hearing from me, let's hear from somebody who actually uses Prize Picks. Sean, how's the picking been going for you?
You know, Bo, it's going to be tough to lose the NBA when it comes to Prize Picks, so I'm excited that I could try my hand at, a few other sports like the WNBA and the MLB. Prize Picks also has esports for all the gamers out there, so if you ever want to make picks on games like Call of Duty, Counter-Strike, or even League of Legends, Prize Picks has you covered. And, Bo, I'm sure you have no idea what I'm talking about when it comes to these video games.
No, League of Legends. I mean, it's hard to keep up with all these games, but make sure you go to prizepicks.com/Bomani and use code Bomani for a first deposit match up to $100. That's prizepicks.com/Bomani. Prize Picks, daily fantasy sports made easy. Now, what happens when the brightest minds in sports and fashion join forces to create the next athletic brand? Greatness wins. Greatness Wins athletic clothing has completely transformed my workout game. It's founded by e-commerce entrepreneur Chris Riccobono, sports legend Derek Jeter, and American Ballet Theater principal dancer Misty Copeland. Greatness Wins is where the demands of sport meets the science of fit. Unlike other athletic brands that prioritize fashion over performance, Greatness Wins combines high-performance functionality with a modern, stylish fit. Made from premium, long-lasting fabrics, Greatness Wins products are built to withstand the toughest workouts. In fact, the Greatness Wins collection is curated and tested by the world's greatest competitors, meeting the highest standards for quality, construction, and endurance. And I've been talking about it, but I've been in the gym getting my workouts done, and I've been rocking Greatness Wins gear, which not only looks dope, but is super comfortable to wear. And don't forget, Father's Day is right around the corner. If you're looking for the perfect gift, look no further. They'll love this. Upgrade your athletic wear at greatnesswins.com now. Use code Bomani and you'll receive 25% off your first purchase. Greatness Wins, where the demands of sport meet the science of fit. Check them out now. That's greatnesswins.com, code Bomani. Hey, let me put you on the game. I got something you need to check out. You ever heard of the BLK app? That's BLK, not black. The BLK app. And if you're not, you're missing out. Check it out. BLK is the largest dating and lifestyle app made specifically for the Black community. Now, for those thinking it's just the same old scene, it's not. BLK switched it up. So you can find a boo if that's what you're looking for. But if you're just looking to make friends, network, group chat with folks based on shared interests, or find out about events happening near you, BLK's got all that too. The app's been around for almost 7 years now, and over 11 million people have downloaded it. It's like the populations of New York City and LA combined. Now, if you've downloaded the app before, re-download it because they've introduced a bunch of new features. And there's new people to meet on the app. And did I mention that it's free? That's right, free. So go download BLK today in the App Store or on Google Play. It's free, it's fun, it's for us. Check it out. Tell me what you think. All right, we are back on the right time with Monica McNutt. We were talking a bit about the NBA Finals. I want to ask you this before we move it on to another topic. Kyrie, it has been fascinating to watch that somehow, some way, through some methodology, they were just like, hey, man, how about you just be quiet and hoop? And he was like, you know what? I will be quiet and hoop. And then we were just like, wow, he's amazing when he's just being quiet and hooping.
I got to give a shout out to my boy, God Sham God, because we were in Utah for All-Star. So that was 2 years ago now when the trade first goes down. And I'm like, bro, what y'all finna do? Like, what this going to look like? He's like, it's going to work. Trust me, it's going to work. It's going to work. And he mentioned a little bit then, he's like, I got him. Like, it's going to work. Between Jayson Kidd, who obviously commands respect of Kyrie at that position, between Sham God, like, his growth, Bo, like, and this is my frustration in our sports conversation. Yes, we marvel at these athletes for what they do because we can't, right? But at the same time, like, they are also human. They are growing. They're bumping their heads. They're learning. Like, now they do it in front of us and sometimes in bigger ways than others. But I think if you give people room to grow. And so for me, being a part of Game 6, the closeout in Minnesota, and having a chance to interview Kyrie post-game, like, you could just feel it off of him in terms of the gratitude and basketball being the number one thing and understanding the culture and his influence on the culture, which is something that something that he didn't have 6 years ago. And here we are with the growth.
First of all, the ability, somebody my age, to hear you say, and I don't know how much this lands with you like it lands my age, the ability to say, my guy, God Sham God. Like, it was amazing to me when I looked up and realized the guy Sham God was a coach. It never dawned on me, because he's such like hood street legend type dude that I did not realize that he was in the coaching circles, right? But God Sham God, well, you got a whole, not just any move named after you, some legitimately incredible shit. You are that dude. Like, the idea that Kyrie Irving and God Sham God have joined forces, I just imagine in my head the most incredible handles that anybody could ever imagine having. Because Kyrie got the best handles I've ever seen.
Right?
Ever.
Mm-hmm. Listen, these are sort of the small pinch me moments. People that you admired and like, oh, like, I know the Sham God movements. And this is why these are the moments in this career path that I really appreciate when basketball people, unsolicited, are like, yo, you're doing a good job. And that's how we were able to strike up a friendship. And I'm really appreciative of it. But yeah, like, there are so many folks behind the scenes that deserve credit when teams win. And he's going to get all his credit, at least from me, in terms of what Dallas is doing.
I just want to point out that, like, when somebody, like, I always think that when you name your kid King or something like that, you asking a lot of them, yes. Right? Like there's got to be some kid that they name Shaq and he ain't good for nothing, right? Can't hoop, not big. Like, it's got to be really disappointing. Hey, man, when your name on your birth certificate is God, and I used to think, because for a while he went by a different name. For a while he went by Sham God Wells, and I honestly had assumed that he had got on some like 5% and changed his name to God Sham God. No, his name was God Sham God. You better be good at something. I don't know what, but you better be able to wreck shop somewhere if your name is God.
What was the one that went viral a couple years back? I wasn't Marvelous. I can't remember it. Oh, but it was the
coldest.
Name
the coldest.
There you go, the coldest.
The coldest. It was the coldest. That woman put a lot of pressure on him. I'm glad that boy's fast. I'm glad that boy turned that into something. You know, just like the other one, Lil Jordan. Like Lil Jordan, I'm glad that he was able to get himself to the NBA. It's tough go. Tough go.
Yeah.
You know, like luckily Jordan as a name became so commonplace that all these kids who were named after Michael Jordan, because that's where all these Jordans come from, you got a lot to live up to. All these Jaylens, you just gonna need to be really cool. Like it'll be hard enough to get to the NBA, but it's the coolest Jalen Rose part that you're gonna have a difficult time living up to.
That's fair. I'm trying to think. Now you're making me do an inventory of the Jaylens I know. And of course, I got to go to Jalen Brunson. Shout out to the Knicks. Very cool. Very cool.
Yeah. Hey, man. Good. Shout out to him. You know what? I got to admit, I owe Jalen Brunson an apology.
Come on.
I don't know why.
Talk to him.
I don't know. I don't know why I thought this. It's going to be a bigger apology than you realize. Like, I'm going to look it up to double check. And, like, if Jalen Brunson hears this, he's going to be so mad because I'm so sorry. And, like, I'd be offended if somebody thought this about me. But for some reason, I thought he was like 5'11". I didn't realize he was 6'2". I don't know why. I had somehow made him 5'11". I'd been like, you can't win with a guy like him. It's like Isaiah Thomas with an A, with 2 A's. You can't win with. And I looked up. I was like, what you mean he's 6'2"? That's not possible.
Yeah,
that changes everything.
Listen. You weren't alone, Bo. You weren't alone. I legit remember during the season, and yes, I'm the radio voice for the Knicks, like I'm close to this team, but I legit remember going down starting point guards, particularly in the East, and pulling up what they were listed at. And I'm like, why do people keep saying that he's this small point guard? He ain't 6'7", he ain't 6'5", but he's not, by his point guard standards, he's not small. What are we talking about?
Yo, I don't know why. Maybe I let other people talk me out of this for so long. Like, he probably salty like them 5'10" dudes usually are, but he's also 6'2". That's a dangerous combination. Like, I've been treating him like he a little fella, and he not. Damn.
It's because he went to Villanova, because my Hoya blood ain't ever going to let me give Villanova but so much credit. This is Villanova. We blame it on that.
Dude, I got to give Villanova credit for this, man. We were thinking of Villanova when they're doing all this winning with Jay Wright. It's kind of a place where you go and you stay 4 years and they get these really good college basketball players, except these really good college basketball players are turned into some hellified pros. Mikal Bridges, Jalen Brunson immediately jumped to mind. My guy, White Dante, out here making it happen. You know, he a champion. Don't forget about that. Josh Hart, it's Dante with an O. You know what I'm saying? They ain't have to do that. Dante with an O. No wonder he get fades. You know, once you Dante with an O, that's what you gonna be. You know what I'm saying? But Villanova putting them dudes in the league.
Yeah, and I think because I heard Chris Wright, I heard Jay Wright talking about this a little bit during the NCAA tournament. There's just a system. And we certainly, remember when Jelly Fam, I can't remember the kids' names, but there was some members of Jelly Fam that were supposed to go to Villanova and the whole thing, and it didn't pass out. It's a system, and it just requires buy-in. And I think those guys that we just mentioned in particular are such high basketball IQ guys. They're quality men. Let's not even just talk about basketball. They're folks that aren't ducking the system, the work, whatever it was. And it has certainly paid off dividends.
Georgetown still got a basketball team.
Stop it. Moving on. Next topic. Let's go.
I didn't know. I was just checking. I hadn't seen them on television in a while.
Hey, bro. They gonna get it right. Come on, Ed Cooley. Come on.
That's right. They did go get Ed Cooley. They did get Ed Cooley. He a good coach.
Well, he's a good coach. We got some work to do. We got a beautiful facility. You know what I'm saying? Like, come on. Let's rock out.
Okay. Okay, just, I should stop. My bad. I love Georgetown means something special. You know what I'm saying? It was just, anyway, I wanted to ask you a couple questions about the WNBA. And part of it is like not even necessarily the WNBA itself, but you made a point on First Take that I thought was a very important one, and one that honestly we should have been having in newsrooms and in like team meetings at our jobs, which is, do we have any idea how to talk about this sport? Do we have any idea how to talk about women in this capacity? And you mentioned with the Caitlin Clark discussion, Kennedy Carter situation, where you said that there are layers to this that we haven't gotten to. And do you find it difficult as I find it? Because I'm willing to get into the layers in part because I'm going to get it wrong and I can live with the fact that I'm going to get it wrong. But people are trying to talk about this, it feels like, without getting to the layers, which then gets us to, honestly, chaos. I mean, you were part of some of that chaos. I don't want to, I don't want to get you in trouble at your job, but we saw it. It was like we've been, all of us at some point or another have been on Crazy Town television. And that was a moment in Crazy Town television.
Yeah. Yeah. Ooh, Bo, it's what's today? Wednesday, the longest week of my life, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I don't regret a lick of it though, because I'm hoping that there's more conversations like the one you and I are having. I'm hoping that there's more conversations that Shannon invited me to have on Nightcap with him and Chad, right? Here's the thing. If you want to talk about sports, winning, losing, stats, then talk about the sports of it all. But when the conversation has shifted to a singular person, Bo, you've been in sports for a long time. Outside of maybe a Draymond Green incident, when has a non-flagrant ever led a Monday morning program? Like, help me, God, I do not understand how we got, help me, right? And so I've been in television long enough to know if it bleeds, it leads, the salacious thing, what are people talking about? Okay, fine. So there's a demand. But how can we discuss it in an honest way, right? The background on Kennedy Carter, who I just told you I believe in athletes as people and growing, Kennedy Carter's temperament should have done that to anybody, right? It just so happened to be the person that has the most eyeballs and has brought the most attention to this league. But to point that out, all of a sudden you've been racist or reverse racist or whatever. No, we just have followed these women and their basketball careers. Check her history. Baby girl has had to work to get back in the league because of her attitude, right? So I think I've really had to sit with this, not just this week, but going into it. There's an accountability that I think those of us that have been in it are asking for from folks that I don't know if they are typically as mindful in their sports discussions because of the makeup of this league. Predominantly Black, large representation of the queer community, and women. The conversation around the W hits on all the things that our society at large, not even in sports, gets charged up about. And it just so happens that Caitlyn, as talented as she is a white woman from the middle of America. And so the language around it has just been unfair in my mind. And I will continue to say and not apologize. It has been unfair to the rest of the women in the league who have built it to the 28-year mark that her presence and Angel Reese and Cameron Brink in this rookie class can take it to another level in terms of the opportunity and the visibility. That's all.
And I think the quality of the play in the league, like I think when I was younger and NBA players stayed 3-4 years in college, rookies could come in and make immediate impacts, right? Like rookie year Shaq was a thing. We can go through rookie year Tim Duncan after staying 4 years. But once these guys started coming in at 18, 19, of course, they weren't hitting the league in the same way. This is an interesting league where the women can stay for 4 years, but because the league is so small and the pay is so low, you're not moving out older players for younger, cheaper options. They're basically all cheap. So what this means is it's a really hard league to crack. And I had not realized until now that Candace Parker was basically one of one in terms of the level of success that you could have coming out of college. Also, the idea that you come out of college and then like 3 weeks later, you're not playing in the pros, right? But nobody comes into that league and has that sort of immediate impact. That wasn't going to happen for Caitlin Clark. That wasn't going to happen for Angel Reese. Like you look at the advanced numbers of them, it's going to take a while before they get to where it is that they're going. But I guess we got to still manufacture stories around it because now there's more interest than ever in women's basketball. There's a hole in the sporting calendar that after the NBA Finals, this will be the thing that probably gets the most attention because it's right there and it's there for everybody to talk about. But we're going to do it with our hot take machine because that's all we got really is a hot take machine.
Bro.
And so we wound up in the hot take on this one. And what got me was, I'm like, well, why ain't Caitlin Clark hit her back? That's how my mind works.
Bro, there's so much, bro. Like, there's so much. Caitlin Clark is a competitor. She has told us she's gone on records. There's been features. She talked trash. And I'm not necessarily justifying a foul that's out of the parameters of basketball, which we all know that's a given. But somebody, please, I need a example. What does it mean to protect the asset in the parameters of a competitive and physical game? Like this is what has been frustrating because there's this whole, that's the golden goose, like, oh, wow. Nobody is saying that she isn't. And it's especially frustrating coming from ex-athletes. Nobody is saying that she isn't. But y'all, you fall in love with a sport just purely because you love the sport, and then you have the potential to go and make your life doing it. But at the root of sport is competition. And now, again, we talk about the things that get society charged. Here we are telling women how to have their being, how to compete. If we're going to talk about this post-finals, if we're going to keep talking about it moving forward, my hope, and most of us that have been here covering it, Caitlin Clark is the lead. But then we get the chance to talk about the basketball of it all and not all of this other superfluous stuff. Like, I shouldn't call it superfluous because it's important. But if we're going to talk about the basketball of the league, let's talk about the basketball of the league. The Connecticut Sun are 9-0. No, this morning on SportsCenter was the first time that I think I've addressed that on ESPN television.
Right. So I have a larger WNBA basketball question I'm curious about, because I am one of these people who is seeing the level of physical play, and I do miss physical play in the NBA, and I like seeing that intensity. Like, I think it adds to the human drama. I even like it to a degree with the basketball. But I was talking to a buddy of mine earlier today. I was my man Charlie Kravitz, so I don't want to steal his idea in case he talks about it later on.
Shout out to
podcast.
Kravitz.
But is there a need for a different officiating in the NBA to allow more freedom of movement in terms of the play? Like, I don't know if that's a discussion that's had around the WNBA, where the NBA decided that they wanted a more free-flowing offensive game, and so they did not allow the level of physicality that they used to. And what I see in the WNBA looks like a level of physicality that I used to see.
So I think that, and I might be part of this, that has been a little bit sensationalized. When I think when we say physicality in the WNBA, we mean going up against grown women. And the joke in the WNBA is, after you have a baby, these women's bodies change and they become like the Hulk, right? Can't attest to that, don't know how true that is personally. But there is a real growth spurt, so to speak, in terms of training as a professional, your body getting stronger. And I think people forget that these women often play year round. Like, they are in shape year round. And so I don't know that there needs to be a conversation about freedom of movement, because I think in the NBA, in the NBA, you are dealing with bigger bodies. The W, to me, that physicalness is just part of it. Like, we've seen a couple of highlights this year that probably should have been called fouls, but in general, it is still a physical brand of basketball within the parameters of basketball. Like, you're not like 90s breaking out fights and stuff. You know what I mean? So no, I'm
Right.
cool with the way things are officiated now. And some teams, like the Sun, predicate on a little bit more physicality and tough-nosed defense and rebounding than others.
See, I had never, like, it's those little things that I'm finding interesting to learn, like what you just said about having a baby, for example. Because I do know one thing about my house. We all know who the toughest person is in our house, and it's the woman that had 3 kids, right? Like, we know that. I watched my mama cook Christmas dinner once with 3 broken ribs. I can go through the list of incredible feats of toughness and strength that I have seen my mother do that I would never consider. I had never thought about the idea, though, in basketball, having a baby perhaps being a performance-enhancing drug.
I mean, Nafisa Collier is having an MVP start to this season, and I want to say her baby might be 2 now. But, like, it's sort of a joke, but there's also some truth to it. Like,
hey, man, you don't want no problems with somebody's mama, man. I think we have all figured and known this. It's something that we never had to think about in a sporting context, right? Like, you don't want to fight your dad, but you might be up to fight somebody else's dad. You don't want to fight nobody's mama, period. No matter who she is. Yours or somebody else. All right, we got to do a little bit more advertising. We're going to talk some more with Monica McNutt on The Right Time. Summer's officially in full swing, which means if you're not outdoors, you're missing out. I love going for a walk or finding a nice spot in the park to people watch, and I always make sure I'm rocking a nice pair of sunglasses. Thanks to our friends at Shady Rays, they have you covered with premium polarized shades that won't break the bank. Shady Rays is an independent sunglasses company offering world-class product rated 5 stars by over 300,000 people. Their shades have durable frames, crystal clear optics, making them the perfect choice for all outdoor adventures. So, Sean, like, what's your relationship with sunglasses like?
You know, Bo, a big part of living in Los Angeles is wearing a nice pair of shades. But, you know, the biggest issue for me is that I'm always either losing them or breaking them. And, you know, the best part about Shady Rays is if your shades ever go missing or take an unexpected hit, you don't have to worry. They have the most insane protection in all of eyewear. every pair is actually backed by lost or broken replacements. Plus, if you don't love your shades, exchange them for a new pair or return worry-free within 30 days. There's no risk when you shop. Their team always has your back with personal and fast support.
And exclusively for our listeners, Shady Rays is giving out their best deal of the season. Head to ShadyRays.com and use code Bomani for 50% off 2 or more pairs of polarized sunglasses. Try for yourself the shades rated 5 stars by over 300,000 people. This episode is sponsored by BetterHelp. Sean, this year's gone by so quickly, but it's always good to slow down and celebrate your wins. What's something that you're proud of from 2024 and that you're looking forward to for the rest of the year?
You know, Bo, I'm certainly proud of this podcast and all that we've done this year. 3 shows a week is never easy. Plus, we even did a live show at South by Southwest, which was an awesome time for everyone involved. And in terms of what I'm looking forward to, I'm excited to see what else we could do with this podcast and beyond for the rest of the year. You know, between the hip hop series we're launching on YouTube and the summer slate of sports, I genuinely can't wait to see where this pod goes.
I gotta agree with you. So when life goes so fast, it's important to take a moment to celebrate your wins and make adjustments for the rest of the year. Therapy can help you take stock of your progress and set achievable goals for the next 6 months. If you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Celebrate the progress that you've already made. Visit BetterHelp.com/Bomani today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/Bomani. All right, we are back on the right time with Monica McNutt. And all right, I guess we got to talk about your trip on television on Monday. I mean, look, man, it was a crazy day on ESPN. I was like, damn, I used to be there like them days at the Seaport when stuff like that would happen. Boy, it'd be tense sitting there at the desk, boy. You'd be laughing and then people come around the corner and then you got to stop. I do miss those days.
Yeah. It's been a week, Bo, for sure. As I reflect on it, and there's a ton of think pieces out now and whatever, like you don't get into this industry for everybody to agree. But Monday's segment, the way it was going, it turned into, the tone was, we're the preeminent leader on women's sports. And that is what provoked the question from me, Bo. But I really did not think that asking about what was going on 3 years ago would have provoked all of this. Because to me, it's a layup for, we weren't here, but we're here now. Let's come back after commercial and discuss that. And even if we get into the ratings, right? And this is where I have been in this women's basketball space. I've been privy to the conversations to pitch and to ask and to try to carve out room to celebrate these women that deserved coverage with and without Caitlin Clark prior to the league, right? This is where it's like, I know that folks have been asking, it just has not been happening. Now, whether that's a First Take, Stephen A, or ESPN at large conversation, all of us are growing, right? But to act as if this is the preeminent space and I'm so well-versed, I'm a woman in sports television. I'll defer to my colleagues, 25 years on NBA, obviously sitting with a Hall of Famer on NFL. But in that moment, nah, y'all, like, I'm the one that's been here. And I think my miscalculation was assuming that the relationship had enough depth to challenge. Because my friends and folks that I call people in my circle, we could challenge one another.
Yeah, and I think, and I watched it all, and I was texting you as it was going because it was quite the discussion on a number of levels. I think, and we talked about it a little earlier where you talked about the layers of the discussion. And I do think that one thing we all need to acknowledge in this space as men who are doing this is, like, talking about women in public is not always easy for a lot of people. I think even for the people who believe that they are the 5%, God's chosen few, right? They think that they are the enlightened ones that could, that know what they're gonna do. You still get to talking, and then you're like, ooh, that word might not sound right. Oh, hey, maybe, you know what? I might not have as much practice at this as I thought. Oh, man, I might be bringing some baggage with me in what I discussed. Like, I've realized this over the years. I've noticed it in others. I've noticed it in myself, right? Like, one thing I noticed in talking about women in sports, like when we would talk about the women's soccer team, for example, we weren't good at scrutinizing when they came up short because we kind of treated like the dainty princess kind of game, which is interesting because it's what's done with Caitlin Clark, but not necessarily done with the entire league. But we all gonna bring a lot to this, and I think that we need to acknowledge sometimes we go and get it wrong, and we probably didn't get it right before. I know I'm talking more about this stuff than I did before, quite honestly, because I don't know what I'm talking about. And now it's visible enough that I can find enough things that I can talk about it, even though I didn't know what I was talking about. And now people can make the argument, well, you could call somebody else. I could, but I didn't know enough about what I was talking about to call somebody else to know specifically what it was that they were talking about. We're all going to be there, I think, in large part as we do this. But no matter who we are, man, if we say that nobody talked about this more than we did, it's a low bar, baby, because I don't know who coming in second. Now, I do think coming in first, if I'm going to be honest, is Aaron Solomon and Around the Horn. If I had to say, in the last 3 years, who I would say was coming in first, I would probably say him. But yeah, we've all been late. Like a whole lot of things converged and came together in the last couple of years. And now we all here, and we gonna have to listen. Like I do acknowledge that 100%. We gonna have to listen.
Yeah, and if this becomes a moment where folks are a little bit more mindful, then fine, purpose served, right? Like I got a ton of texts from folks that have covered the WNBA, men, women, like of support, and it wasn't for me. This is why this whole thing has blown my mind, Bo, because it truly wasn't in that moment. It was not about checking and winning a debate. It was a legitimate question, right? This space has grown. So many people have just joined the space that weren't here 3 years ago. Now we could get into the minutia of nobody cared 3 years ago. The ratings weren't there 3 years ago. And I'm not going to say that the ratings are wrong, but like I said, I've been in it long enough to know that folks were asking for opportunities to help bring in a new audience and they just weren't giving them, right? And so this is why, like, again, in this conversation, I would never part my lips to say that Caitlin Clark is not a huge phenomenon and great for the sport. But I'm also going to tell you that there's a rookie curve, that there are other great women in this league that deserve coverage, and that you should not be trying to dictate how to compete. The league's been standing for 28 years. Like, these women know how to compete at a high level.
Yeah, like, I mean, the Kennedy Carter knocking Caitlin Clark down. I think Colin Cowherd made a very interesting point. He's like, Caitlin Clark can handle it. It's like, they're not fragile, we are. Because we don't know how to talk about women in these spaces. I have a larger thing, and I honestly want to like start something book related on this, and I've talked about this before. By and large, the celebration of sport in society is the celebration of masculinity. It's the celebration of men. It's the celebration of masculine energy, all this stuff. And it gets wonky once we start ascribing these things to women. People just don't quite know exactly how to talk about these things. Now, there's, I think, a lot of men who have daughters who participate in sports, and so now they come up in these worlds, they see more, they view it differently because they have a bit more of a like firsthand accounting of what to do with it. But yeah, I give this to Caitlin Clark. She did not hit the ground and crumble, right? Like I recommended to her, don't get out here doing no Karen shit. That ain't really gonna work out too good for you. But at the same time, I don't feel like that's the approach that she's taking. And in fact, I remember this. It was last year around the Angel Reese, Caitlin Clark stuff. And I can't remember if I called you or texted you. I think I called you, and I was like, Caitlin be out there giving it to him. He was like, yeah, she'd be out there giving it to him. Like that was an important piece of context to have that it felt like nobody explored.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right in terms of, I think Sally Jenkins wrote the book Girls in Pretty Boxes back in the day that I read in grad school. But in terms of what you want your women to look like, even like applying that to a sports lens from all these people that cover sport for a living, that competed at a living. If anything, the baseline is the desire to compete. And like the other thing about all this thing is there is no code that says everybody got to like each other. Like it's competition. Not everybody's going to talk trash. Some people going to have plenty to say. Like there are different ways that we all compete. And as long as you're doing it and within the parameters of the game, like there is nothing wrong with it. And so it has just been the irony, Bo, or the poetry that as a woman in sports, which comes with all of its whatever it comes with, discussing women in sports would lead to my diminishing my existence as a woman in sports. Like this personal cycle for me this week for going on a debate show and debating, it's been a bit of a vortex. Like, and I think I'm thankful for it because you learn from all of these moments. But to your point, it is a microcosm of what I think what was cut off at one point while I was making this point on First Take. As a woman, you're always dancing, thinking twice about your words. You're forced to try to please everybody and anybody. And it's a ongoing tightrope. And you're just trying to be. We're on the show to debate. I'm debating. I asked a question. I still don't necessarily have the answer to said question. And genuinely, it wasn't a dig. It was a legitimate question. So we're all learning together. I hope more people are interested in having listening ears, not just conversations, but having their listening ears on in those conversations.
Well, I think you also got to, though, what I would consider to be an interesting point, which is how, like, when something hits that inflection point that I don't want to say merits, because I'm not talking about a meritocracy, but something gets that mainstream coverage, right? Like, what is the moment or the thing that happens when it turns? Because on one hand, I agree with you on the argument, and I think this applies more to something like First Take than, say, a show like this one, but I can speak to what I do personally, right? I think it's fair to say that with the platform that Stephen A. Smith, to raise the question as to whether or not more visibility to the women's game could have been brought if he had talked about it sooner. I also think it's fair to say if he didn't know the stuff, you didn't want him to talk about it any sooner. But at the same time, if that was where his interests were and like where his attention was, you could make the argument that yes, he could have been talking about it on that platform. On the other end, I could look on something like my show and I could say if last year I decided I was going to put out a WNBA preview, this audience that I have, and it's an opt-in audience, was not primed for that. And I don't think they would listen to it. I think I would be doing it in large part, and this is what I don't want to be, because I bet you see these people too, and they annoy you like they annoy me, these damn panderers who's out here just doing it, trying to get some clout off of this, trying to say that they doing it, to say that they did it. I would rather make the argument that it don't matter if Bomani Jones cares about what you're doing to legitimize it, rather than I'm going to do this because I have to, and because I'm going to show people that I'm doing it, and then it don't nobody hear it. Then what do we do? But something has happened in these last 3 years. I think it's the falling interest in men's college basketball, the increased interest in women's college basketball, the more names that we're learning, and people who turned to the W at different points and realized, if you watched it in the mid-90s, this is a world's different quality of play than it used to be, right? Like, I will not apologize for not watching early 2000s women's basketball. It wasn't my bag. This is a much better brand of basketball to watch, right? And so it all came together, and it comes together with Caitlin Clark. Like, as much as we could say that there are other great players that have shown up before, but it's perfect storm, and it does have a lot to do with her. I don't think that I don't know if she'll ever, and I don't know enough about the game to know this. I don't know if she'll ever be able to be the same type of player as she was in college, because I don't know enough about the physical differences between college basketball and everything else. But I know every dollar that she gonna get off of these endorsements and all this attention, it was earned. That was a legitimate phenomenon that we had. And now I think we'll find out about a lot of other people. We'll be reminded of people that we forgot about. Like, oh yeah, she was cold too. That's right. I remember when I watched that. Like, I used Enrique as an example, because I feel like we forget. We know women when they play college ball. We forget them when they get to the WNBA. And then something happens, and it's going to be the Fever. And what are they, the Wings? And you're like, oh, damn, there's Enrique. Completely forgot.
Yeah. And I've sat with men in this space that are like, I'll cover women's college basketball, but I wasn't covering the WNBA. Let me just go to your example, Bo, because I think that's fair, right? If you had put out a WNBA primer 3 years ago, your audience might have been like, what are we doing? And you are in a position to serve your audience, and that's fine. But you just articulated that to me, and we could discuss it, right? And you could say to me, Man, I think you're a little too close to this, because I know that you've been pushing, but so much of media is, what is the audience responding to? I've been in TV, I'm a TV professional, like, I can hear that, right? And I think what I have had to grapple with as we've tried to grow this sport is how much of it is you have not fed it to the audience versus the audience doesn't want it. Because it's not like I'm saying that 2 hours of morning television should be about this topic. That's not what I'm saying at all. I'm saying that there was room and there was opportunity. Now, the other part of that is that question came from a place of, oh, y'all trying to talk to me like I'm stupid. Like, this is the leader on women's sports all of a sudden. Okay, well, let me just double check how long we've been doing this, right? And so as we move through these conversations, to your point, Bo, I've been watching the league this year. Beautiful. I started watching the league last year. Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese brought me to the league. Beautiful. But let's just be honest. And I think Rebecca Lobo said it when we did a segment on Get Up this week. Like, have people on that know, because it's an opportunity to educate. And because, again, we talk about our societal totem pole. Women, mostly Black women, queer women, you've got a lot of pieces that are charged, and there should be a mindfulness that comes as you are new here. That's all. And now I know somebody will be like, oh, it's just sports, but you can say whatever you want about the men. Men can do a lot of things that women don't get a chance to do. Like, what y'all want me to do? That's just where we are in society.
Right. But I also think you're right, though, in the sense, though, that I could say that about my show, but I also could have done it. Like, if I had been so invested, I could come up with ways around it. I figured out in the past how to talk about the World Cup when I don't really know that much about that. Now, that I might could make the argument that there's more of an audience that's there, perhaps. But your point is a valid one. Even if I didn't do it before, even if I have a reason that I didn't do it before, if I had decided that that's what I wanted to do, I had the option of doing it, right? I can be justified in not doing it while also acknowledging I could have done this at a different point, right? And I think that's where a lot of people are going to need to get on this. So also, for example, I've made this point before, that I think the people who have been around the longest need to be able to figure out who's making an earnest attempt and who's not, and recognize some people making earnest attempts are going to get it wrong, and you should probably cut them some slack. Now, is that a very self-serving outlook that I am offering? It certainly is, right? I'm definitely talking about myself in part, and I'm not, what I don't want to be is, they was mean to me, so I stopped. But at the same time, I can tell you, it's a lot of they was mean to me, so I stopped. So if you want these people to talk about this stuff, you're going to need to be a little bit nicer in some cases, but you have to actually try. And so what I think happens, and I'm not saying this specifically about Stephen A. or Shannon, but I'm saying generally, when I don't know what I'm talking about, I try to move things into spaces where I do know what I'm talking about. Like with soccer, I make jokes out of it. I use basketball terms like, oh man, it's a fast break. Oh snap, he got handles, right? Those. But hey, that's how my brain works, and other people can get it. That's what I do. That's what people typically do when they don't know what it is. They try to move it into the paradigms they've already have established. A mistake that a lot of men are going to have is their established paradigms of women are not good ones. Their established paradigms of women can lead them to say things that are not going to sound out loud like they might sound in people's heads. And we're all going to have to become better people to actually do this properly. Because I do think, especially with the Caitlin Clark stuff, a lot of this goes back to what people already think about the ways that women interact with each other. And don't get me wrong, I got some thoughts on how I think that women interact with each other. I ain't gonna say them all, though. Not on TV, because that would be stupid. That would be the dumbest thing to do in the world.
For me, like, if I could boil this thing down to anything, like make it as simple as possible as the new eyeballs have come. And trust me, like, I've also been in sports media long enough to know that with the new eyeballs, all the noise and the takes, and it's going to get crazy. And boy, has it gotten crazy. But if you're really here trying to celebrate or follow your favorite player, just respect competition. Like, that's what I feel like this week has boiled down to. These are basketball players. They are not competing in ballet shoes and tutus. Like, it's not so you think you can dance and I'm just going to outperform. Like, it is a physical sport. And in all of this, I mean, Caitlin has made a ton of money in this, but I really imagine that some of these conversations that she has been centered in, she's not really enjoyed. She's a rookie. She loves the game of basketball. She's trying to compete. She's trying to get better. And so I just think if we're going to enjoy the WNBA at large, let's get to the basketball of it all and celebrate the competition.
Hey, look, that to me has been the most refreshing part of tuning into this. It's like, oh, they out here going. They out here playing for real in these streets. I've been missing out.
Yeah, it's great. It's great. And like I said, happy everybody's here. Let's enjoy it. It's going to be a minute probably before the Fever are competing for like championship level. So there's going to be some struggles there. But when we said it was a curve, everybody was hating. No, it's not about hating. It's about knowing this league.
Hey, can they get the number 1 pick again so that they can get Paige on the
Bro.
team next year and we can just watch everybody's head explode as they try to make sense out of all of this?
Paige is not the right position though, because now you got 2 point guards. Like I remember the Paige and Caitlin debate for freshman of the year nationally. Like it's that's not quite right, but they could be in position to have a top 5 pick for sure.
Oh no, you're not hearing what I'm saying, Monica. I'm talking about just for the chaos. That'll make it even better. If they gotta have like a survival of the fittest to see who get to keep it, and they might got to move one of them out of there. Oh snap! Hell yeah!
Oh my god!
Hell yeah!
That would be something.
I'm just saying, that's what I would be rooting for if it was the NBA, like a Magic Johnson, Norm Nixon kind of situation. That's what I would be going for. Because, you know, in college, you'll just put anybody out there. You'll put 2 3-point guards out there at the same time in college. It's a little tricky in the NBA. Both of them being like, no, I want the ball. No, I want the ball. Aaliyah Boston down low, just waving a hand like, woohoo, hey. Did you know I was the number 1 pick? Did you know? I'm like, right. See, that's once we get to the point that we can just openly root for hilarious chaos, that's when we got progress.
I'm rooting for that progress. We're far away from that, though.
Hey, Monica McNutt, where are you going to be for the NBA Finals? You going to be on the radio?
I will be on the radio, pregame, halftime, postgame. I'll be joining our Hoop Streams coverage and just buckling up for this travel that is NBA Finals life, because that's an exhausting run.
Hey, you've been killing it. You're going to keep killing it. I appreciate you finding the time for little old us in the midst of all your chaos and schedule and everything else, and I am happy for you.
Thanks, Bo. This was cathartic. I appreciate it.
Nah, it is no problem. Sean, you got prize picks for the people to catharsize them? I know that ain't no word. You know
it's a word today, Bo. It's a word today, certainly. I got 3 picks for you with the finals coming on Thursday. Let's go Jayson Tatum, 0.5 points. I'll take more thanks to Prize Picks' little bonus action we got there. Derek Lively, someone I'm really rooting for in this NBA Finals, regardless of what happens. He's a player at the top of my list. 17 points, rebounds, and assists. Let's take more there. And a fellow Derek White, 23.5 points, rebounds, and assists. He's one of those gadget players, as people would call him. But I see him doing a lot there for the Celtics.
Sean, I love the way you be selling whatever madness I say. You the king of the affirming segue. Oh, yeah, Bo, the sky is green, just like money. Anyway, want to make some money on Prize Picks? You're gifted at this. But ladies and gentlemen, thanks so much for joining us here on The Right Time. That's Sean Yu. He handles everything behind the scenes. Thank you, sir. Remember, follow The Right Time. Subscribe, like, rate us, review us, give us 5 stars. You only give us 4 stars. I'm inclined to believe you are a hater. We'll talk to you guys in a couple of days. Take it easy.